In today's video, we'll be going into the life of the revered designer and fashion icon Karl Lagerfeld. Karl Lagerfeld was widely known as the Emperor of the fashion world. He ruled over various fashion houses and designer labels. This multifaceted creative genius was responsible for the revolution of the industry's most iconic brands and changed the direction of fashion itself. Early life. Karl Lagerfeld, original name Karl Otto Lagerfeld, he later removed the T in his name because it sounded too commercial. Lagerfeld was born on September 10, 1933, in Hamburg, Germany. He was born into the wealthy family of Christian Lagerfeld and Elisabeth Ballmann. His father, Christian Lagerfeld, was a German businessman and the founder of the German company Lagerfeld & Co. in 1919. He made his wealth from importing condensed milk to Germany. Christian Lagerfeld had a daughter with his first wife who later passed away in 1922. His mother, Elisabeth Ballmann, was a lingerie saleswoman when she met Karl's father. Elisabeth was a fashionable woman and was said to be an inspiration to Karl. Karl was known for misinterpreting his birth year. He couldn't specify if it was 1935 or 1938. In April 2013, he stated he was born in 1935. However, a birth announcement made by his parents in 1933 and his death certificate oppose his claims, revealing his true birth year to be 1933. As a child, Karl excelled at his studies and was taught to speak various languages at a young age. However, he showed much interest in visual arts. In an interview with some of his schoolmates, they claimed he was always making sketches while classes were on. Karl attended a private school and finished his secondary schooling at Lycée Montagne. Karl, however, stated visiting the Kunsthalle Hamburg Museum helped him learn more than school ever did. Road to becoming an icon. In 1952, Karl was 14 years old and moved to Paris to study fashion. 2 years later, Karl entered the International Wool Secretariat competition. The judges of the competition included Pierre Balmain, Jacques Pfaff, and Hubert Givenchy. Karl submitted one of his sketches to the judges and won first place for Best Coach Sketch. The judges, as well as other designers, were wowed by his talent and could tell what he was capable of. It was at the competition Karl met the 19-year-old Yves Saint Laurent, who also won an award in the dress category. His talent seemed to resonate with Pierre Balmain because shortly after the competition was over, Karl was offered a position to work as his assistant. Karl started as a junior assistant and went on to be an apprentice. Karl worked side by side with Balmain for 3 years, learning the ins and outs of designing and fashion. In 1958, Karl was made the artistic director of Jean Patou. At this time, he was designing 2 collections a year for the house of Jean Patou. He worked with him until 1963, when he traveled to Rome to study art history. While he was in Rome, Karl delved into freelancing, where he worked for a multitude of brands such as Charles Jourdain, Chloe, Brizia, and Valentino. In 1967, he was employed as a consultant director by the Italian fashion house Fendi. His role was majorly in the fur line and other accessories of the company. His innovations were claimed to be groundbreaking. He introduced the use of rabbit, mole, and squirrel skin in high fashion. Karl worked with Fendi for the rest of his career. In 1982, Karl was hired by the French fashion house Chanel as a director of collections and ready-to-wear. Karl alone was able to restore life to the design house, which was previously acclaimed to be a near-dead brand. The brand was able to make a face on the fashion scene after it had fallen from fashion grace following the death of Coco Chanel in 1971. In 1983, Karl took over and produced his first Courtois collection for Chanel. A year later, he introduced his own eponymous label called Karl Lagerfeld, which had been his aspiration since he made his entry into the fashion circuit. His label centered around the concept of what he referred to as intellectual sexiness. Karl Lagerfeld concentrated mostly on women's wear and flourished in several historical revivals, which included the shoulder pads, the 1950s poof skirts, 1860s crinolines, and hoops of the mid-80s. In 2005, Karl sold his label to Tommy Hilfiger, but was given full autonomy in the design aspect. Later career. In 2002, Karl Lagerfeld collaborated with the founder of Diesel, Renzo Rosso, on a special denim collection for the Lagerfeld Gallery. The Lagerfeld Gallery collection was designed by Karl Lagerfeld and Renzo's creative team. The collection consisted of 5 pieces that were presented during Paris Fashion Week. The pieces were sold as limited editions at the Lagerfeld Gallery in Paris and Monaco, and the Diesel Denim Gallery in New York and Tokyo. The collection made a huge sale in the first week of sales, even though the prices ranged between $240 and $1,840. In an interview, Rosso stated, "I'm honored to have met this fashion icon of our time. Karl represents creativity, tradition and challenge, and the fact that he thought of Diesel for this collaboration is a great gift, an acknowledgement of our reputation as a prêt-à-porter of casual wear." In addition to his work as a fashion designer, Karl was also involved in several professional works. Karl had an interest in photography. From 1987, he photographed many of Chanel's fashion advertisements, which were later published in several fashion magazines, such as British Vogue and Interview. He released a publication titled The Karl Lagerfeld Diet in 2004. The publication was co-written with his physician Jean-Claude Houdret. The publication was produced as an attempt to explain the journey of his weight loss. He stated in his book, "I suddenly wanted to dress differently, to wear clothes designed by Heidi Slimane, but these fashions, modeled by very, very slim boys, and not men my age, required me to lose at least 40 kilograms. It took me exactly 13 months. In December 2006, Karl announced the launch of his new collection for both men and women, which he named Karl Lagerfeld. The collection included fitted shirts and a wide range of jeans. In 2008, Karl worked with Steve to produce a teddy bear in his own likeness. The teddy bear had a limited edition of 2,500, with each sold at the price of $1,500. In 2009, Tretuti produced a collection of mini Lagerfelds in the form of mice and mini puppets, which he called Karl Lagermaus and Karl Lagerfeld. Also that same year, Karl went on to play the role of Fabu in the French animated film Totally Spies, the movie, as a voice actor. In 2012, Karl released his photo book, titled The Little Black Jacket. The award-winning book contains Lagerfeld's photographs of celebrities wearing the modern adaptable jacket, with individual flair sometimes classic, sometimes irreverent, but always Chanel, with each of the protagonists styled by Karin Roitfeld. Karl later realized one of his childhood dreams by becoming a professional caricaturist. In 2013, Karl had his political art published in the German newspaper, Frankfurter Allgemeine Zeitung. In November 2015, during the British Fashion Awards, Karl Lagerfeld was presented with the Outstanding Achievement Award. In 2008, Karl Lagerfeld worked in collaboration with Carpenter's Workshop Valley to launch an art collection of functional sculptures which he titled Architectures. The sculptures were made of Arabescato Fantastico and were all made in the forms of tables, guerdons, lamps, consoles, fountains, and mirrors. Death and legacy. On February 18, 2019, Karl Lagerfeld was admitted to the American Hospital of Paris in the Parisian suburb of Neuilly-sur-Seine following a health complication. The fashion icon passed away the next morning. Although his cause of death was not made public, it was later announced he died from complications of pancreatic cancer. A year before his death, Karl had requested a non-formal funeral. However, during the final Chanel collection, a moment of silence was made in his honor, and chairs were emblazoned with his image on the chairs next to Coco Chanel, with the phrase, "The beat goes on." Karl had also requested to be cremated with his ashes spread at secret locations, and the rest shared with the ashes of his late mother and late lover, Jacques Demacher. On June 20, 2019, Karl Lagerfeld was memorialized at the Grand Palais. The celebration featured highlights of his 10 years working at Fendi, Chloe, and Chanel. The brilliant designer passed away at the age of 85, leaving behind an immense fashion legacy. His career, which spanned over 7 decades, was filled with hard work, talent, fun, and a resolve not to give up. I hope you got some value out of this biography. If so, make sure to drop a like and see you in the next video.